Hello, everyone. It is Tiffany of Clarity, Confidence, Courage, Women's Empowerment. Welcome or welcome back. I am so excited today. We have a guest that I'm just thrilled that she was willing to let me interview her and be on my YouTube channel for Clarity, Confidence, Courage, Women's Empowerment. This woman I have met through a coaching program a year ago. We stayed in touch. We have gotten to know each other so much better, and we have learned so much from each other. It helps people stress less and sleep more, including reducing stress and sleep itself. She is a certified in cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, an evidence-based strategy that is effective as sleeping pills in short term and effective in the long term. Yana helps you replace unhelpful habits and thoughts around sleep with beneficial ones via quick and easy steps. And so I am going to allow Yana to continue to introduce herself and tell us more about how she got into this idea of helping people with sleep and how it can specifically be beneficial for women who want to get clarity, confidence, and more courage. Yana, take over.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for that great introduction, and very happy to be here. As you said, my name is Yana, and my surname, you pronounce it Vriesinga. I am Dutch. I am based in Amsterdam. And I got really passionate about sleep and the impact of sleep on our mental and physical resilience when I was going through a very stressful divorce now 9 years ago. And I had that triggered chronic insomnia that lasted for around a year and a half. And that really made me passionate about getting better sleep myself and eventually helping others do the same.
That's an amazing story, Anna. And it's interesting because we both share that I am also divorced. And the one thing that I can agree with, whether it's divorce or any life transition, losing a job, or maybe something happening with your children, stress in general can really affect your sleep. And I don't think people recognize it when they're going through a very stressful event. Can you tell us more about how stress really plays a pivotal role when it comes to decreasing sleep, or having less good sleep, we should say?
Yeah, excellent question. So there's this really nice model that makes that very clear. It's been developed by a sleep scientist. He's called Spielman. He's not alive anymore, Arthur Spielman, but he developed this model. He called it the 3P model of insomnia. And those P's, he used 3 words starting with the letter P to describe this process. But those words are very long, like 6, 7 syllable words. So I made them shorter. So I call that the simplified 3P model. So what happens is the 3P stand for being prone to sleep problems, then having a push into real sleep issues, and then a phase where the sleep issues might prolong. So actually, there's a difference between people and how prone they are to developing sleep problems. And a large factor, not many people know this, is actually genetics. So if one or both of your parents struggle with sleep, you're more likely to do so too. But for most people, actually, this doesn't manifest kind of like this, let's say, being prone to the sleep problems until a stressful life event. And then the second P comes into play, the one that pushes us into sleep problems. So if I take myself, for example, I was always a good sleeper, but I do have a family of history of poor sleep. My mother was a poor sleeper. My dad, luckily, a very good sleeper. So I guess I'm a bit of a mix. So I always slept very well, like a rock, sleeping long nights, feeling refreshed the next day until my divorce, which was very stressful, and it was stressful for a long time. And that was the second P. It pushed me into having sleep problems. And then for quite a few people, the third P shows up, and that's the prolonged phase. So some of us, we have some sleep issues, but then the stressful life event passes and we go back to normal sleep. But a large group of people, after their sleep problems have been triggered, they've been pushed into it, they get into both behaviors and thoughts around sleep that actually maintain the problem over the long run.
Thank you for explaining that because I never would have thought issues with sleep was genetics, or at least, had something to do with genetics. But that makes complete sense because I feel like, and I won't go down the epigenetics path, but from what I learned about epigenetics and how genetics plays a part in our, as far as our DNA, what's in our DNA and what we don't know about kind of behind the curtain, that is just lying dormant. You don't know that it's
That's it.
there. Nothing is happening. But as soon as that stressful event occurs, it's almost like two asteroids colliding in
Yeah,
outer space, and suddenly it manifests in our bodies. And
yeah.
so that is really eye-opening because I'm sure there's a lot of women who are like you said, why am I suffering from sleep? Or even if it's a mild stressor, maybe it's not a big stressor. And it's like, I've been sleeping so well, and now this mild stressor happens, and now I can't sleep at all.
That's right. So there's this underlying sensitivity that make people prone. Then they have that push factor. So you also have a lot of people said like, I always slept perfectly fine until, something happened. And as you said, it can also be kind of like a minor stressor or like a short-term stressor, like maybe somebody loses their job, which is usually gives a lot of stress, but they might find rather quickly a new job that they find very fulfilling. So the stressor is gone, but the sleep problems persist, they prolong, and that's because of those underlying behaviors and often also thoughts around sleep that keep people in this cycle of poor sleep. And then, of course, if you sleep poorly during the day, you are less resilient. You feel stressed a lot easier. You get less stuff done. So then, at the end of the day, you might be very like unfulfilled, thinking like, oh, my life is spinning out of control. I need to sleep. And actually, one of those thoughts that's unhelpful is like, I need to sleep now. That's not how it works with sleep. And so we'll talk about it more, but I've written a ebook that I provide for free where I list like a whole range of like habits that are both habits that are helpful and the ones that are unhelpful, and the same for thoughts and mindset around sleep.
I love that.
Yeah,
And everybody, the ebook will be in the link in the description. So just know you are going to get access to Yana's free ebook to give you more information about sleep. Um,
great.
and Yana, when you talk about, poor sleep, I know I have my definition of poor sleep, but what do you consider the definition of poor sleep or poor sleep habits?
Great. So let's look at poor sleep itself. It's a myth that you necessarily need 8 hours of sleep. So it varies. Some sleep scientists say like anywhere between 7 and 9 is a healthy range. Some scientists go as low as like 6.5 hours, but you really like anything below 6 hours, it becomes like problematic in the sense that very few people, almost nobody, can function really well on less than 6 hours of sleep. And another thing to look out for is like, how are you feeling during the day? Do you feel energized? Can you focus all right? And so basically, how much sleep you need is a bit of a personal discovery journey, going like, okay, if I sleep 8 hours, I feel great, but 7 hours isn't enough for me. Whereas else will say, like, actually, on 7 hours, I'm fine. If you feel great on 7 hours of sleep, then don't stress out. Don't try to get like 8 or 9 hours. 7 is enough for you. Just like really tune in with your body and don't let society dictate how much sleep you get, but really like give yourself the sleep you feel you need, but you don't have to stress about getting more hours of sleep if you just feel fine with the hours you get, as long as it's about like above like 6.5, 7.
That makes sense. And do you feel that, like, as far as environment, the winter versus the summer from your studies, does that play a part in it? Like the colder months versus the warmer months?
So in general, it's good to have a sleep environment that is dark, quiet, and cool. So you'd want it to be more on the cooler side than on the warm side. And of course, it depends where you live in the world, when that is. And of course, you can do many things to modify like the temperature in your sleep environment. And I do advise to like invest some time into making your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet. So definitely like blackout curtains are a great idea. Like comfortable bedding is great. Again, look at the temperature, very important. And at the same time, you do want to get those like basics right. At the same time, if people have a lot of stress in their life, usually that's not enough. So it's great to do it. I'm not saying like, don't bother about getting a comfortable bed or like don't bother about, making it dark. Definitely do that. And especially because usually it's like one-time tweaks you make and where you have like a long-term benefit. And yet you also want to add helpful habits that you engage in during the day or during the night when you wake up, and especially also thoughts and mindsets, because you can get everything right, have like the perfect bedroom setting and have like the perfect habits, like you cut back on caffeine and you exercise enough and all the good things. But if your thoughts around sleep are creating stress about sleep itself or the lack thereof, that's when people get into trouble. And that's when they're in this prolonged phase. They got pushed into insomnia and into sleep problems. At first, it's kind of like, oh, this is inconvenient. I'm not sleeping well. Okay, tomorrow I'll sleep better. And then they don't. And that's when, people start to get, understandably, trying to control it and having these thoughts like, I have to sleep. If I don't sleep now, tomorrow I'll feel terrible. But actually, I think you can see how, I know you're big on mindset, how these thoughts itself can be a source of stress. So I also like in my ebook talk about a lot about mindset around sleep, because basically what you want at the end of the day is to have a tired body, but also a calm mind.
Hmm. I love that. A tired body and a calm mind. It's the best recipe for getting some great sleep.
That's right.
So, as we talk about stress, since we're on that subject, the holidays are coming up. And I
Yeah.
know, especially my audience is a lot of women. We talk about, of course, clarity, confidence, and courage, and habits and boundaries, and making sure that you're still taking care of yourself no matter what. From your perspective, what are some good tips for women during the holidays on how they can, especially if they're traveling to see family or having to stay at a hotel or a bed that's not their own, they're already dealing with sleep issues. And now the holidays are coming up and it's pulling them more out of their normal routines. What are some little tips that you can give to help them stay on the path to have good sleep during the holidays?
Absolutely. So I have some gadgets to sleep better, but let me start with something very simple that you can do uh, anywhere, whether you're sleeping at home or you're on the road visiting family. And it's a very simple journaling technique where you only just need a piece of pen and paper, or if you're sharing the bed with your significant other, you can also just like do it together. It's like a little exercise where at the end of the day, you do two things. You write down or share with somebody else the successes of your day. So you could either say like, let's do this for 10 minutes, or you could say like, let's do three things. Like, what are your top three best things of the day? And these can be things that you've accomplished yourself. Like, for example, you say like, well, like a great success was that I was like really stressed about preparing dinner for all the guests, but I managed well and everybody had a great time. So that was a great success. Or it could also be like something you're grateful for. You just be like, could be like, I'm so grateful for this time together with family and friends, or I'm so grateful that we're healthy. Those kind of things. And what that does is that right before sleep, usually actually what happens is that we start like ruminating like about things that went wrong, or I shouldn't forget this, or I wish I said that, which actually is a bit of brain science behind that. Is that during the evening our prefrontal cortex that usually like manages everything kind of goes slowly offline, and our amygdala, which is producing more like emotional reactions, can get then more active. So usually you also see like when you get tired, you get more emotional. A journaling practice like this helps you again like to focus that amygdala away from like everything that didn't go well or that might go wrong the next day to like what is good. And so that can really help to kind of like go into sleep. I've been doing this for years and it's amazing. You just go into sleep, you lay down, and then you think like, oh, that beautiful moment with my children, or, so you have these, you replace the worry thoughts with pleasant thoughts. So that's really powerful with the journaling. And what you can also do, if there is something like really bothering you and it just like you keep rewinding that in your head, like, oh my God, I said this and that was so embarrassing, or I made this mistake and that was so, I wish I hadn't done that. I think we can all relate how then you just play that over and over again. My advice is put it down on paper, what went wrong, and then write down what the lesson is for the next time. Because we can't go back in time, but we can learn for the next time. And I find that once you write that down, the mind calms down because the mind is like, yeah, you learned your lesson. Good. Thank you. Now I'll let go and let you go to sleep. Does that make sense?
Yes, it so makes sense because I know for me, part of the issue that I have with sleep a lot of times is ruminating. And
Yeah.
it's all in my head, but like you said, write it down. Write
Yeah.
down, what happened and then write down the good things that happened.
Yeah. And you can go either like order, it doesn't matter. Like some evenings, I'm just like, there's something on my mind that just like something that went wrong. And it just like this loop is going on and I'm ruminating. Then I'll start with the lesson and I'll be like, this went wrong. Okay, what's the lesson? Great. And then my brain goes like, thanks, you've learned your lesson. Now I'll let go. And then I'll write down like what the successes and what I'm grateful for. And some days there's no lessons. Then that's also fine. You don't have to force yourself, but if there's something that's bothering you, rather than being like, I shouldn't be thinking about this, I can't fix it anyway right now. No, but your mind won't let go until you do something with it. So write it down and write down the lesson. And also to add, like if you have like a lot of like to-dos in your mind, just like get a piece of paper and write down all the to-dos. And then next day, of course, follow up on them. But that's also a great one.
And you know what's so funny that you say that? I literally have had to do that. I've had to get out of bed in the middle of the night and write down a to-do list because it just wouldn't, my brain would not let it go. It was like, Tiff, just get up and write it down so that you can stop worrying that you'll forget it when you wake up in the morning. So just get up and write it down.
Yeah. And I know you do a lot like with women's like confidence and courage, but also seeing that the brain is actually trying to keep us safe. And trying to keep us in a good place. So actually be grateful that your brain is going like, don't forget about this, don't forget about that, because it's important. But the thing is, you want to sleep. So get it down on paper, and then your brain will go again like, okay, thank you. Now I'm sure it will get taken care of. Of course, the next day you do have to pick up that piece of paper and look at it and, work on that to-do list. But just like in the night, it's time to rest, and it helps your brain to be in that place of rest if you help it. So yeah, definitely write down that to-do list. It's
Uh,
a very good habit.
Thank you. And I know, Yana, you have other tools that you said you wanted to show us as well.
Right. I just have some like practical things because to make you feel calm about leaving the home and sleeping elsewhere and being confident that you can still get a proper night of sleep even though you're in a different environment. Because especially people who struggle with sleep, they can get anxious about sleeping elsewhere, and understandably. And yet the sad thing then is that if you decide to stay at home, you might be missing out on this fun and this opportunity to connect with people who are important in your life. So with a very low budget and little time, you can just like assemble this little sleep toolkit that you can take on the road. So what I'd really recommend is one, very simple and cheap. These little these are made out of wax that you can put in your ear, and they really help against noise, be it like a snoring partner, but also like if you're in a hotel and it might be like a noisy surroundings. So definitely get like a box of these. Then another thing that can help is a sleep mask. I have a pretty advanced one, but just like anything that blocks out light. It could even be just a simple scarf you have, and you can just like tie it around your face, because it is important for your environment to be dark, but it doesn't necessarily, if there's no blackout curtains, well, just like tie something around your eyes. It's a myth that light that gets in your skin is actually like disturbing your sleep. There was some research that came out years ago that said like even if you have your eyes closed, but there's like light in the room and it's hitting your skin, that's disturbing your sleep. That's not true. Only light that comes into your eyes and like on your eyelids will disturb your sleep. So just wear a simple eye mask and then you're golden. And you can get those very cheaply. Now, I got some very nice ones as a gift recently from my boyfriend that have integrated, how do you say it? Like
Earphones where you can hear.
earphones, right? Integrated earphones. So I can wear these. And then when I'm awake at night, I can listen to a podcast to help me fall asleep. Because that's in general, like in my ebook, there's more tips. But in general, in the night, if you're like worried, ruminating, again, like write it down if it's like to-dos. But if it's just like general worries, know that it's normal, because I always say like in the dark everything gets darker, so it's normal, there's nothing wrong with you, but it's normal to be more worried. And a helpful strategy is to like just distract yourself, and one great way can be your phone. Of course a phone can be a bit tricky and bad because you can end up like scrolling on social media, but I always say like during the night, use your phone with your ears, not with your eyes.
Mm.
So listen to something, and listen to something that is interesting enough that it distracts you from your ruminations and worries, but not so interesting that you're like, this is activating and I want to like hear everything about this. And what that is different for everybody. So just experiment, but there is going to be a podcast, a certain kind of information that will be interesting, but not activating for you. And then, as you might know, like in things like Spotify, you can actually select, like if you play something, you can put a timer, a sleep timer, and you can say like, make it stop like after 10 minutes, for example. So then I set my sleep timer, I put my thing on, and then after 10 minutes, usually I'm gone.
That's such a good idea because I didn't know you could do that on Spotify. So thank you for sharing that tip that you can put a sleep timer. I love that. Um,
Yeah, you can on most podcasts, not on songs, but on podcasts you can just like click on it. Like there's a little clock to the right, and you can click it, and then you can choose like a time like that it stops after 10 minutes or 20 or at the end of the episode, whatever you like. Yeah.
nice.
And of course, like I have it integrated in my sleep mask, but you can just also like just have your phone in the room, whatever works for you. But this one is great because then you could be sleeping next to your partner and they don't hear a thing. And then another thing I like for being on the road is this little headlight I have that actually many people use for camping. You can get them very cheaply online. Like I paid like 15 euros for this one. So, and what it does, it has white light, but it also has red light. I'll shine it a bit like this.
Mhm.
And this is great at night because you can then, especially if you're in an unfamiliar environment, you just put on your headlight and you put on the red light and you can just like go to the bathroom without turning on the bright lights and waking up from the bright lights. And you can just like safely move around. So I really love this.
I love
And I encourage women to be sensible sleepers. Now, what do I mean by that? This little framework that I developed myself after talking to so many people about their sleep. I saw there's three mindsets, and I'll quickly explain them and then take the right mindset during the holidays and for the rest of your life, basically. So, one mindset around sleep is what I call the sloppy sleeper. These are people who are really like sloppy around their sleep. It's kind of like the last thing on their list. So if it gets busy, they just go like, "Oh, I'll sleep later. I'll work until late into the night, or I'll set their alarm very early so I can get up and get more stuff done." And it's understandable if you have a lot on your plate to look for time to do it, and then sleep suffers. But in the long term, this is a very unhealthy behavior. So that's what I call the sloppy sleepers. And during the past, I would say like 10 years, there has been a lot of great information out there showing how important sleep is for the brain and for the body. So a lot of like scientific research has reached the public about, you know, impact on longevity and different kind of like illnesses you can develop if you chronically don't sleep enough. So this is great. This was meant to like shake the sloppy sleepers awake and say like take better care of your sleep. I think that's a great message. However, for some people, they're all the way in the other side of the spectrum, and I call them the stressed sleepers. And those are the people who are like, I need to sleep. I heard somewhere that I need 8 hours. So I need my 8 hours. I need, to do like X, Y, Z to get good sleep. I need, my environment to be exactly like this. If I have 1 hour, less sleep, the next day I'll feel terrible. And, I might even, age sooner. So can you see how that builds like a lot of stress around sleep? And also, if you then look at the holidays, people might be like, oh, I'm so nervous. I'll be away from home. I don't know if I'll sleep well. And so there's a lot of stress around it. So we have the sloppy sleeper, we have the stress sleeper. What you want to be is actually both are not very helpful for sleep. What you want to be is the Goldilocks, like the middle road, which is what I call the sensible sleeper. So the sensible sleeper will say, I know that sleep is important. I will do what is like within my control to have healthy sleep, to sleep long enough, good sleep quality. I'll do what is like within reach, but I will not stress about it. I will not be perfectionistic about it because life is life, especially if you're like in a holiday season, there's a lot going on and you might not be able to set your own schedule precisely, right? Like you don't have full control of your schedule. So the sensible sleeper will go like, I will try to go to bed at the same time every day, because that's actually one of the main things that helps with good sleep. It's just like regularity. But I will not freak out if like one evening it's like 1 hour later, because we're having so much fun with, family members or friends. See, can you see how like a bit of flexibility is actually healthy?
Little
Yes.
email. It's kind of like we work so much in this country that I think it adds to not only issues with sleep, but a level of like normalized anxiety. Which of course, as a woman who is a professional woman, you're a career woman, you're a businesswoman, you're working, but at what point do we shut off and just enjoy life? So, Yana, can you kind of tell us a little bit about the cultural differences when it comes to work and having time off and kind of being mindful and incorporating that level of mindfulness and connection and all the things that really make life worth living, that kind of helps us in general as human beings decrease our stress?
Yeah, great question. I agree that there is a big difference between countries. When I was still working as a journalist in my previous life, I would say I traveled a lot, including to the US. And I loved my travels. I also went to South America a lot. And there's definitely differences between countries. And I feel very blessed to live in a country that's like this life work balance, people who are like working for big organizations, they have a lot of paid holidays, etc. And even then, we're struggling with finding enough time for sleep and relaxation, because we live in this world that's basically like constantly on. So then imagine if you live in a culture or in a personal situation where you really have to work a lot, and have a lot on your plate. Like you might be a single parent who is also working, or you're taking care of like aging parents. Like everybody's situation is different. Uh, but what happens a lot is that people saying like, I have so much on the plate. How can I get it all done? And in that case, I would say set a bedtime for yourself. Like we're used to setting an alarm clock in the morning to get up at a certain time, but I would advise people to also set an alarm clock in the evening, where they go like, after this time, it's me time. And it's like, yeah, so no more like work emails, no more anything really that stresses you or activates you. So just, and that of course is like very personal. Like for some people, it can be calming to go on social media. For a lot of people, like including me, it's stressful. So then set that time like about a minimum 30 minutes before bedtime, but I would say preferably an hour before bedtime, after which is just like, this is my hour to, calm down, not, get too many impulses of like emails or messages. Just be like what I like to do, for example, is like take a warm shower, write in my journal, maybe read a bit, but like all these things that are calming, or that could also, if you like ruminate a lot, it's actually okay to watch television, to like not think about your own like worries, but something that's pleasant for you. So something, if you're not into scary movies, definitely don't watch a scary movie right before bed,
So
right?
this idea of no matter what culture you come from, create your own kind of environment that is really focused, that helps you. And I think for so many of my viewers, I always say this, ladies, you have to create boundaries. If you feel like you're in a situation where you can't cut off, that is now a question of where can I place boundaries in my life to have 30 minutes to shut everything down and relax and unwind right before bed. So thank you for that reminder,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think it's helpful to realize that if you give yourself the opportunity to sleep well, the next day you'll feel so much better, and you get all those things done that you're struggling with in the evening, and you're like, oh, I still need to answer that email. Just leave it. Allow yourself to, I should say, unwind, sleep well, and then the next day tackle it. And
Nice.
I think, yeah, as you said, boundaries are very important, especially in situations where society or your situation doesn't provide those boundaries. Then you really have to set those boundaries yourself.
And when I got to know you, and you mentioned you were a journalist, world renowned, traveled all over, you've had, from what I know about you, an exciting life. So you exude confidence and courage. And for a lot of the women who are following me, who are like, I want to have confidence, I want to have courage, I may want to step out of my business, especially professional women. What
Mhm.
gave you the confidence and the courage specifically to step out and start your own business?
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful question. What really, well, mind you, it was still scary to leave my job at a big Dutch newspaper and start for myself and to decide to make an online course about sleep, and especially like sleep when you're stressed. I'm not going to say it wasn't scary and that it still isn't sometimes scary. And then I go like, oh, what did I do? Give up, full-time contract and all the benefits, etc. But what really helped me is knowing that I have this toolkit full of tools that help me stay resilient, whatever happens. And I know that a lot of women listening to your YouTube channel, they're going through a difficult time. And I'd rather, of course, have people, have a nice and easy life. But I would say that difficult times are like the perfect training ground for building up those tools. So I would say, like, looking back at my divorce, it was the most difficult time in my life. As I said, my kids were still very young. There was like a lot of going on, the stress of like the breakup, and also like housing, financial issues. Uh, and yet, like, I developed so many habits that help me to this very day. Like getting enough exercise, journaling is a big one for me. Giving priority to sleep is definitely a big one, and a lot of habits that I developed and thoughts on how to get that healthy sleep. So then actually I had a first test of those of my toolkit during COVID. Because of course then for everybody the world was like upside down. And I remember also like I was working when, the news hit, and I was in the newsroom, and there's like all this like, oh, lockdown and no flights anymore, and like the stock market going up and down. And then I was like, oh, this is stressful. Okay, let me use those tools. What can I do with my breathing? Like, what can I, like all these little habits I developed during my divorce. I was just like, I can handle this. Yeah.
I love that because something that you said specifically during the challenging times is when we have to show up for ourselves and we have to pull out. And for a lot of women, I'm not going to say they don't have challenging times, but there are times where they don't even realize they have the resilience, they have the strength, they have, because if you're comfortable, it's like, I don't necessarily have to use that all the time, but it's like a muscle. And when you go
Right.
through that challenging time, you can use that muscle. And it's like, now's the time to use your resilience and use that courage to move forward. So I love that you said that. It's during the challenging times where we get tested sometimes. We have to show up for ourselves.
And then when you show up for yourself and you prioritize your well-being, some people go like, well, that sounds selfish, prioritizing your well-being. But it's not, because when you do, then you can also be there for others. Like for me as a mom, it was so important to, take good care of myself of my sleep, exercise enough, so I would have the energy and the health to be there for my children. I'm being trained, I'm becoming more resilient. I really love this whole concept of resilience rather than trying to be happy all the time, which is, you know, virtually impossible. If you're going through a very difficult time, you can always be like, oh, I'll be happy or I'll be grateful all the time. Like, it's good to do those exercises to see like what you're grateful for, but I would like don't expect to be in a great mood all the time, but I would say like every day you can be resilient. Like
Hmm.
every day, even if it gets like super tough, actually that's the moment where you'd be like, okay, what's gonna help me right now? Do I need to call a friend? Do I need to journal? Do I need to do a certain like breathing exercise that calms me down? And step by step, like you train these like resilience skills. And the same around sleep. Like for a lot of people, it takes a few steps to, and it takes a time if their sleep is disturbed to like get back to healthy sleep. But then also I would say like kind of have this curious mindset and just be like, okay, I'm just trying different things. I'm trying different habits and thoughts. And every time I'm laying awake, it's a training ground to do like something, for example, is called progressive muscle relaxation that helps people sleep. Okay, it might not work this first time, but then you're like, well, I tried it. It helped maybe a bit to calm me down, and it was a training round for next time. And I would say, like, any moment during the day or night, if you're laying awake and you can't sleep, is a chance to like look in that toolbox and go like, what's helpful right now? Every moment you can ask like, what's helpful and what would be unhelpful, and you have a choice.
Yes, yes, you have a choice. You have a choice of what you think about. Like, you're right. You have a choice. And I always remind myself when I'm having a difficult day, am I choosing good thoughts or am I choosing unhelpful thoughts that are not really serving me? What is one of the biggest motivational messages that you can tell women just from your life experiences, your global experiences, your path through resilience, through tough times, through building up your own business? What is that one motivational message that you can leave with my audience today?
Okay, great. I would say focus on healthy habits, including healthy sleep, and then the rest will follow.
Love it. And Yana, how can you be contacted? Of course, I'm going to have your information in our description below, but if you can tell us again how we can contact you.
Okay, well, you can just simply email me. I'm at hello@resilientdays.com. And also, you will put the link in the show notes, but I can also give the link to my ebook. My ebook is called Stress Less and Sleep More. And in that, I share simple, scientifically proven habits to boost your energy and focus during the day and improve your sleep at night. And I also go deeper into those 3 sleep mindsets that I shared at the start. And also, it includes a clear list of do's and don'ts for the morning, day, evening, and night. So you have like a step-by-step guide to stress less and sleep more. And you can download that ebook at resilientdays.com/ebook. And so ebook is one word, resilientdays.com/ebook.
Perfect. Well, Yana, thank you so much. You and I talk, of course, all the time, but I really appreciate you being on this YouTube interview. I love to give interviews from women from different perspectives, women around the world, because I think it's important for us to understand, number one, we are not alone. We're all going through different things, but we all have similar goals when it comes to our well-being, our health, and living a vibrant and beautiful life. So thank you so much, Yana. I'll put all of your information in the link in the description below. Of course, definitely follow Yana, get on get her free e-guide because she's going to help you get better sleep, which is going to hopefully significantly improve your life and your confidence. We are all on the path to living a better, beautiful, more joyful and fulfilling life. So thank you again, Yana. And yeah, we'll talk next time. As always, everyone, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.